Well, you are looking at what it looked like in the northern extent of the eye wall of Typhoon Nari when that came ashore, shot by videographer James Reynolds when he was there in Baler there on Friday evening going into early Saturday morning. And this is some of the recovery efforts there in the city. Lots of downed trees, power outages across much of that area as that storm came ashore, with winds likely right around about Category 1 to Category 2, low-end Category 2 strength on the Saffir-Simpson scale. A total of 13 individuals have been reported dead at this time, actually due to fallen trees, electrocution, also a mudslide, and a few collapsed buildings. And speaking of the buildings, upwards of about 16,000 homes have been damaged across the Philippines. So a very, very serious situation. Ongoing efforts recovering from this storm right near the coastal area. But the good news is that it is tracking off towards the west, rapidly improving conditions behind it. So you're actually seeing some partly cloudy skies there in the Philippines today. Also on the satellite imagery, though, we are talking about Typhoon Nari. Please check out the web page, or also just check out our channel, because we are also continuing to cover this storm, Typhoon Wipa, pulling off there towards the north, a likely impact there on central Japan by midweek. Let's talk about Nari. It's racing there towards the west. And, well, if you are along the eastern coast of Vietnam, very similar conditions that we saw in the Philippines is going to be bearing down on you here as it tracks off here towards the west, moving at about 20 kilometers per hour at this time. So like I said, it's moving at a fairly fast pace. JMA has winds about 75 up to 105 knots. Really, though, there's a big difference in where exactly the storm system is going to be making landfall according to a few of the models, and also the differences in the agencies. JMA has it moving farther here towards the north, actually much closer to Hanoi than the U.S. military's agency JTWC has, where they actually move it farther now south towards Da Nang. I actually think a little bit right in the middle here, just north of Hue, Vietnam, more closer to Dong Hoi, is where the storm system is going to be making landfall, and really kind of agree with what the ECMWF model is saying at this time. Shown here, tracking off there towards the west, moving over the Paracel Islands, and it really is going to be packing some pretty intense winds for people if they are out and about on these islands, and also these waves kicking up out here, up to about 7 to 8 meters high. But this is the ECMWF just showing this tracking off there towards the west. And what we can see here is it making landfall by Tuesday evening, going into the night hours, right near Dong Hoi. Now, was the ECMWF? This is just showing you the GFS model, which actually expects this storm system track off there towards the west, making landfall sometime by Tuesday early morning. So a little bit faster, but it also has it much farther towards the south. So it'll be later on, obviously, if it goes farther here towards the north at landfall, because it has a little bit farther there to track. And I think that northern case up there towards Dong Hoi is more likely, just given the overall background flow at this time. And we're also looking at a little troughing rate here. You have the Westpac high rate in this area, and then we have, well, basically this break extending off there towards the north. So this is going to track west and then trying to shift a little bit on a more northwesterly track. So everybody from Da Nang all the way up there towards Dong Hoi, really do think you're going to be seeing some typhoon strength winds, these high waves, very similar conditions what we saw there in the Philippines. But plus the heavy rainfall coming from this is going to be leading to a very serious case of some flooding, even as far north as southern portions of Hainan, but extending all along these coastal areas. You can see from Dong Hoi all the way down there towards the south, we're looking at about 50 to 100 millimeters in just the course of a few hours. Some areas could see about 300 to 400 millimeters as this does push off there towards the west. And it's not just Vietnam. Of course, these mountainous terrains just inland are looking at the risk of flooding, but farther west into portions of Thailand, eventually the storm system is going to be tracking. And I know eastern Thailand has been dealing with some very severe flooding, but also Laos, you're looking at the risk as this does track off there. So right now, though, I think the worst risk is going to be around Dong Hoi and just inland into the mountains here as that does track off. So that is all on this one right now, everybody. The good news, it will weaken out slowly after it does move ashore. So, but really, you're looking at a high risk of some heavy rain. So let's hope we don't hear of any more reports of any casualties out here. I did read a report from one of the local media agencies there in Vietnam. It does look like evacuation orders are already in place. They're already trying to take proper measurements, preparing for the storm system as it does track off there towards the west. Typhoon watches are in effect, or the equivalent of typhoon watches, right near coastal areas as well from the Vietnam Meteorological Agency. So, yeah, the storm system tracking off in your direction. Do take it seriously. It is not no cyclone pylon that we just saw there towards India, but it is still a fairly strong typhoon. And if you are in coastal areas or in the steep terrain, you are going to be looking at that risk of flooding, but also these damaging winds that very well could toss around debris. And not to mention these outer rain bands, there's those risks, as always, of tornadoes. So if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, post them down in the comment box below. And as always, stay safe out there, everybody.